Well, over 36,000 in, 42 out, and then one back in again. That is the latest national humiliation for Britain. And do you remember that deal Starmer struck with the pound-shop Napoleon Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, the so-called one-in, one-out deal? Well, as we predicted, it's been about as effective as a chocolate teapot. According to the Daily Express, a bloke we shipped back to France on September 19th was one of the few we managed to deport to France. It was hailed as a milestone by Shabana Mahmood and the Labour government, but just under 4 weeks later, guess what? He's back. He's hopped right back on a dinghy and washed up on our shores again on October the 18th. Well, he claims he was scared of smugglers in Paris and claimed that France wasn't safe. Yes, of course, it's the same France that sees 9.3 million British tourists a year and is one of the most rich and prosperous countries in the world. On top of that latest humiliation, Keir Starmer has now abysmally and unequivocally failed to smash the gangs, it seems. In fact, this government is such a magnet for illegal migrants that they have smashed last year's record of small boat arrivals, tallying up to over 36,500 with 2 full months to go before 2025's even over. That grim milestone figure was passed at lunchtime today as 2 Border Force vessels arrived at Dover Harbour with 150 migrants on board. And GB News can tonight exclusively reveal footage of one of the boats leaving France.
الدفعة الثانية فرنسا بريطانيا فرات ابو حسين العراقي ارفع من جوا لك ارفع من جوا يا رب يا ميسر الدفعة الثانية يا رب يا ميسر اليوم شو يلا تكبير يلا ارفع من جوا ارفع من جوا.
And we've got more. GB News has obtained footage of those migrants on their way to break into our country.
Come to London.
Well, it's always worth reminding the country of the cost, both monetarily and culturally, to the United Kingdom. The asylum hotel bill alone was north of £8 billion under the Tories, and now under Labour it's still chewing through about £6 million a day just to house these arrivals. That's your money propping up luxury digs while British people queue, in some cases, for over a decade to get a council home. 60 million dished out for private GP access for small boat arrivals, another 100 million blown on deterrence measures that clearly aren't working, £500 million to French police to watch migrants as they float off to Britain, and even 2.4 million a year on snacks and catering during their welcome parties. And on top of all of that, we've had rapes, death threats aimed at politicians, murders, paedophilia, all part of the great cultural enrichment you are paying for by the so-called doctors and nurses coming to Britain. Well, we've seen rising anger at mass uncontrolled migration in Britain, and it's no surprise to me whatsoever that it spread to Ireland too. This was Dublin last night. Yeah, riots tearing through the streets, hundreds raging outside a migrant hotel in City West after a reportedly rejected asylum seeker who has apparently been facing deportation since March, by the way, was charged in connection with the alleged sexual assault of a 10-year-old girl. Fireworks were flying, cars torched, police battered with missiles. And there's been 6 arrests so far, and violent protest in whatever circumstance is not acceptable, by the way. But it is the tip of the iceberg. It's like a powder keg, isn't it, at the moment? Our own GB News reporter, Doogie Beattie, and our camerawoman were subjected to violence from the Irish police themselves, smacked to the ground, pepper sprayed and seemingly targeted like the Free Press were the enemy.
A crowd turned up here, about 2,000 people, and they started to march down towards the City West Hotel. And of course, as soon as that started, the TSG, the public order section of the Garda Síochána, the Republic of Ireland's police force, moved in. Now, during that time, they attacked us, the media, right in the middle of that, and I've never ever seen that before. But what they've done is they've pushed all the rioters down the road into little side streets here, and right now there's a very tense standoff.
Yeah, we'll do. Hats off to you, mate. You are a hero for fearlessly reporting on the truth over there, despite the circumstances. But of course, back here in the UK, how much more of this humiliation can we take? How much more of our money is this government willing to blow on bringing these useless and sometimes dangerous people to our country? My message to Keir Starmer and Shabana Mahmood is this: you might as well start the mass deportations of these men now, because if you don't, the next government will. And when they do, all the time and money you've wasted, all the crimes that have been committed in your term in office will be the only legacy that you will leave behind. All right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Journalist and broadcaster Nina Mishkov, former Conservative Special Advisor James Price, and businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Good evening, everybody. James, I'll start with you. You know, we're seeing this never-ending crisis. It's never-ending crisis because it seems to me governments across the West, not just here in the United Kingdom, but across Europe, are not getting tough on this issue. That is why these men are coming over in their droves. That's why the government's now smashed their own gang's target, haven't they, with over 36,500 arrivals, the whole of last year's number already here. When's this going to give?
Yeah, it's not going to give. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep getting worse until and unless the government gets to grips with some of the root causes of this. Root causes being it's still very, very attractive for someone to come to Britain compared to other places, compared to staying in France, compared to going anywhere, frankly, really, other than maybe Germany, who are equally as suicidally attractive to some of these places. Until you have a disincentive or a deterrent, something like sending people to Rwanda, you're never going to fix this until you fix the legal morass, the legal mess that we've got ourselves in, that makes it so difficult to deport these people because they can claim using the European Convention on Human Rights or the British statute, the British laws, things like the Human Rights Act that reference that, till you get rid of all of that. And I think now, at this point, because these gangs who smuggle people over are so well established, until we send out either capture or kill orders of the people who run those gangs and the people operating it, you're never going to get anything done. But if you did those things, it would be pitifully easy to solve this problem. So you've got to have the government getting to grips with this. And Starmer's never going to do that because what does he care about more than anything else? International law.
Well, look, I want to come to Nina and Adam just a second, but we've got some breaking news in the past few minutes. Second night of violent rioting has erupted in Dublin. Yeah, that's after a migrant was arrested in connection with the alleged sexual assault of a 10-year-old girl. Protesters have thrown masonry, flares, glass bottles and wooden planks at Garda members near a Dublin migrant hotel. Garda are attempting to disperse the crowd from the area in the west of the Irish capital. A mounted Garda unit and a dog unit are at the scene, with a police helicopter providing air support too. Well, last night, 6 people were arrested and 5 of them have been charged after the Irish police were attacked with bricks and fireworks. And of course, you saw the pictures moments ago. A police vehicle was also set on fire too. Yeah, you know, shocking stuff. We don't condone violence here. We'll make that very, very clear. There's ways to get across your political feelings on things without erupting in violence. Adam, those scenes, of course, they're very reminiscent, aren't they? We all sort of have we've seen it here in the United Kingdom, haven't we? And it feels like this never-ending crisis, which has clearly got worse under this government, we're still staring down the barrel of it in this country, with the worst days to come, because, of course, we're now in record-breaking territory.
Yeah, look, I've been at the forefront of the movement from Epping. And yes, in the early days we see violence, a lot of people from out of the area in Epping. But what you've got to remember, This is a national emergency. When we are importing degenerates that cannot be trusted around women or girls, we are seeing, look, I post on my Instagram every day a different case, either an arrest or a conviction of a rape, a sexual assault, of a migrant masturbating in public, or a pedo sting caught from someone that's been here just days. How can our government, who we pay our taxes to, allow our women and children to be subjected to that? Of course these men are going to be angry. You're going to get more violence. This country is going to erupt in the next few years if this government doesn't stop it. And as James said, it's right. You have got to stop the draw, the pull factor. If we did what Greece have done, they've set up camps with tents, they get slop, or they get deported or 5 years in prison for entering illegally. If we sent that message out to the rest of the world, this would nearly stop overnight.
Well, Nina, you know, do you think that a lot of people coming over here are dangerous? That's one of the claims that many people make.
You know, there are obviously in any bunch of people, in any statistic, any society, any group, any demographic, you're going to get people who are dangerous. But to assume that everybody who comes over on a boat is a paedophile or some kind of rapist...
A lot of them are, Nina.
Adam... Can I just finish?
No, I'm letting you know the facts. A lot are.
You did this last time we were on the sofa. I barely got 6 words out and you interrupted.
You carry on, but a lot are. I'm correcting you.
Otherwise, I'm going to say you're just like the Taliban. You want to shut women down.
You say what you like.
You don't argue with any of these guys.
Let me just keep going.
You know, start and let me finish.
Facts are facts. OK.
Keep going.
Well, the trouble with Adam is that he doesn't know what the facts are. There are no facts as to how many paedophiles come over on a boat per... Are you saying, Adam, that for every boatload of, say, 50, there are 5 paedophiles?
Let me just tell you now, if the government released the migrant data like we've been asking for, you would know. I am posting stories every day.
Your voice down?
Please don't be rude. Please don't be rude, Nina.
I'm not...
We're talking about young girls. We're talking about young girls and women that are being sexually assaulted and raped.
I'm going to put you in time out.
Please, this is just ridiculous.
Because we want to get down to the bottom of this, don't we? Because, you know, obviously the next election, I think this is a massive battleground, James. A massive battleground. You're a former political advisor. What would you be advising the government to do at this moment in time?
Well, they're in a big problem here. I think, and on this debate here, we do know that everybody who crosses over is committing a crime by entering the country illegally. Exactly. One of the things that the Conservatives did was to say that if you enter the country illegally, you will never be able to stay and claim asylum here. That was one of the first things that Labour got rid of. I'd advise them to change that rule, for starters. Shabana Mahmood, the newish Home Secretary, seems vaguely sensible on this sort of stuff. She seems to understand some of the root problems. Is she going to be able to convince the Prime Minister, as I say, who's an international law advocate, is a human rights lawyer in the past, all these things, to change some of these fundamental issues and fundamental laws? Because at the moment you've got saying, well, if you get rid of the Human Rights Act, we'll have no human rights in this country, which is obviously ludicrous. Lots of countries don't have access to the ECHR. We seem to have plenty of human rights before that bill came in.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can convince Labour to do that, then maybe they've got a chance of fixing this problem, but they won't.
I'd like just to say, I agree with you about Shabana Mahmood. She's a really tough cooking, and I think I have a great deal of faith in her, and I think she will get things moving. First, I'd like to say that the rioting in Dublin has nothing to do with Keir Starmer and the Labour government.
Of course,
so let's not conflate those two.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
No one said it. That is about the alleged sexual assault of a child.
I think it's just that, you know, there's similarities.
I understand, but I thought it best to point it out because we didn't point it out. I think that Keir Starmer is trying very hard because it seems, you know, what you need to do is you need to have cooperation for a returning, you know, for a returning country. If you look at the Albanian situation, 2022 there were 12,000 Albanians who came, and we did a deal with Albania, and then last year there were only 600. So it does work. And the same thing with France. We've had a terrible relationship with France. We need to get that better. This is an embarrassing situation that somebody's just, you know, gone out and come back in again, but hopefully that won't happen again. But it does prove the point that if you just chucked everybody back at France, they just turn around again. But the thing is, Keir Starmer this afternoon had a meeting of the West Balkan states. Now, a quarter of the people who arrive here come through those states. He is trying to get a returns hub set up there, and Kosovo have said that they are very positive about it. Yeah. Montenegro said, if you build us a railway, we'll do it. You know, so people are bargaining. But there's a real hope, because you need to have cooperation from the other side. So there's no point in saying that Keir Starmer's doing nothing or doesn't care about it. He is trying.
OK, very, very briefly, Adam, last word, because do you think that this one in, one out deal is a good deterrent, or do you think it's all?
It's an absolute farce, and I said it as soon as it was released. I was on this sofa and I said it's a PR exercise. It's to get headlines, and that's exactly what it is. 11,000 in, 40 out, and one's come back. They're all going to come back if they can, because we are El Dorado, the city of gold. We give them everything. All they deserve is a tent and some slops.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, there you have it. I've got to leave it there, unfortunately. But trust me, we'll be talking about this for a long time to come, I think, because it doesn't look like the government are going to solve it anytime soon, does it? Let's be honest. But there we go. Record-breaking numbers today. That, of course, very embarrassing situation, that migrant coming back on that deportations plan. At least they've got him, you know? At least they've got him, you know?
They've got a system,
That's good.
so they know. They've ticked him off.
We've got to have some silver linings, haven't we?